It's been a long week, right? Are you ready to wind down? Why not? It's time for the Wine Time Fridays podcast with Shelley and Phil. Neither are sommeliers, but both have a deep passion for life, each other, and of course, delicious wine. And now, here to talk about this week over a glass of wine is Shelley and Phil. It's wine time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Wine Time Fridays with Shelley and Phil on this Friday, November 10th. On this Friday, November 17th. Yeah, 2023. I'm so screwed up right now. Episode 187. Shelley, happy Friday. It's wine time. Please get the bell going.
Tell me which.
We have another guest. We seemingly are going to blow out of the water our record for guests in any year. We are well past that already, and we're still adding on. And I know I asked this before. We have Jesse Balsimo with Truvino. Not only is he a distributor, Shelley, he's also an importer.
Wow.
It's kind of, you have to keep those separate. But Jesse, welcome to Wine Time Fridays.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you're going to pour something. Now, I kind of put an order that may or may not be the right order. So I'm just going to let you start pouring, and we're going to start talking about it as well as what you're doing. But I feel like I have to say thank you to our new friends at Parallel 47 for supplying us with these rental glasses. Yeah, these are outstanding glasses. They rival Andrea Robinson's, the one wine glass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure you can't drop this off a counter without it breaking like the one. But these are spectacular.
Andrea's great too, though.
So they're on Government Way. Can you read that address?
No,
It's 9201 Government Way.
I don't know. I think so.
It's between Honeysuckle.
Can you take a stab at it?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
because you're 30 years younger than us, Jesse.
9021 North Government Way in Hayden.
Beautiful. Yeah, we had to get these glasses because yours truly forgot to bring glasses. We are at the Business Zone in Hayden. And I got a text about a week ago, actually a phone call from Kirk Grady of Bottle Joy. Said, are you around the area? I said, I can be. He said, you need to stop by. That's all I'm telling you. And so when I walked in, not knowing what to expect, I met Jesse, who pretty much South African wines. Now, you have other portfolios, but you're in the South African wines. We have a whole map of South Africa up here. He's probably going to talk a little about, yes, we do have that going. Anyway, why don't we pour, and then you can start telling us some of this info.
Sure. Yeah. Let's get ready.
What do we got in the first one?
Well, you know what? Let's stick with what you got, the lineup that you have on the list.
Chenin Blanc.
Yeah, we're going to start with some Chenin Blanc.
Okay. Hank.
Yeah. So I've been importing from South Africa for 20 years. First 10 years in the industry, also started up a Minnesota distribution company. And then on the import side, we were mainly South Africa, a little bit of Spanish wines, some Portuguese wines, a little bit of Australian, but under the distribution company was everything under the sun, basically, with a focus on grower wines or boutique productions. I got out of that partnership in 2013, and that was the time where I decided to kind of put all the eggs in South African basket, so to speak.
Or bottles.
Bottles, yeah, yeah, casks,
Casks. Right.
We started to see, the big companies like the Gallows of the world invest into South Africa, and it was many other large companies as well. And there was a big push coast to coast in the U.S. here, and the main focus was on the lower price tier.
Okay.
Like under $10 retail at that time. And there was a branding message going around of South Africa is cheap Chenin Blanc, cheap Pinotage, and I was like, oh God, there's so much more of a story to be told.
Yeah,
So
cheap is never a good word.
Yeah, and so I mean, I guess in all fairness, South Africa, prior to then, had been struggling a little bit with a bulk wine problem, where you could get bulk wine very cheaply from South Africa and then add it into a larger production from California or wherever. And that was there was an initiative started in '98. This integrity and sustainability seal. I can get into that a little bit more later. Yeah. But the driving force behind that was to kind of lift the value of the growers and the people that were making their own wines, putting their own juice in their own bottles. So this is a system where if you go to the government website here, the SELUS website, punch in these 2 series of codes, you can track down to the liter what goes into the farming process, that vintage, and in the winery.
So that's this.
So it's all about
transparency.
Yeah.
So what we have in our glass right now is we can't taste it, and this is what the tail looks like right here. For those of you on, well, now Jesse just broke a cardinal rule. Tasting wine before we toast it. Oh, what the hell? What the hell, Jesse? It doesn't mean you can't have another sip. To health, wealth, and abundance, gratitude, romance,
And peace on earth.
All right, nice. I might even have forgot the rule, even if you told me beforehand.
That's nice.
Yeah. So, but to get back to the why South Africa for me,
delish.
I just felt like there was such an in-depth story to be told that wasn't really discovered at all in the U.S. here, but Europe had been number one import for many, many years. Same in the UK and other parts of the world. Understood South African wines, and we were just here in the U.S. just kind of barely scratching the surface. So we like to say that this Western Cape here is the most terroir diverse place on the planet.
Right. So that's down around here, yes?
Yep. Yeah. If you go from what you can see here from the top, top left side to the far right bottom there, it's a big L shape. That's about a 250-mile radius.
So it's down here,
all
to over here.
Yeah, really kind of up all of this out to here.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So it's a relatively small area, but there's some very unique factors that make this place what it is. It's the only place in major wine growing where you have the convergence of 2 bodies of water. So on this side over here is the Atlantic, and the prevailing wind comes from the northeast. It's a very, very cold body of water.
I feel like a weather person.
Down at that most southern tip there, Cape Agulhas, is the dividing line. If you draw a diagonal line down to the South Pole, so kind of towards me, that divides the Atlantic on the west side, and on the southeast side is the Indian Ocean. The prevailing wind comes directly from the east. It's a warm body of water. So if you're ever down there, there's a little town, if you look real closely on that map, called Strausby. It has gorgeous little white sand beaches, and it's an ocean, so it's cool water, but but you can swim in it. It's comfortable. You walk a couple hundred yards to the other side, the Atlantic side, and your legs will be numb within 2 to 3 seconds. It's a drastic difference, and they converge right on this area. And I'm sure everyone's aware of big, large bodies of water, and their role on agriculture is quite significant. So that's a major factor right there. And I'm sure you can't see it on the screen, but if you zoom in, there's all these little mountain icons everywhere, which this whole place is littered with low-lying mountains. So you get all these little microclimates carved out. To quickly run through it, Stellenbosch, which is probably the most famous area or recognizable area, it accounts for roughly 30% of production. The southern half is sitting about 2 degrees cooler than Left Bank Bordeaux. And then it gets a little bit warmer in the northern half. But as you go north from Stellenbosch into Parel, Wellington, Tulbagh, the Swartland, it gets warmer and warmer and warmer. So we find a lot of Portuguese Rhone varietals up there. And looking back at the map, you see coastal region on the left. There's a kind of a red outline. Everything to the east of that, you're jumping over a big mountain divide.
Shelley got a kick in her neck.
Yeah. Yeah, so you descend down into valley. Robertson is the next one I'm going to highlight. There's a large mountain range on the north side, large mountain range on the south side. It's one valley floor. It's like a half pipe, just like Napa.
Mhm.
Is a half a degree deviation, average highs, average lows from Napa.
Wow.
So in just this little short journey, which you can make in a day easily, you go
Wow.
from Bordeaux to Rowan to Napa, and then you shoot down to the coast. Cape Agulhas is producing similar Sauvignon Blanc to like Marlborough, New Zealand.
Wow.
Coming back towards Stellenbosch, you hit Walker Bay, which is the old historic area for Pinots and Chards, and they're coastal, so temperature graph is a lot longer, more relaxed. You can find Pinots and Chards that are similar to Willamette Valley.
Wow.
And then their neighbor just to the west, Elgin, is the coldest region. It's 360 degrees, surrounded by a mountain, so it looks like a big moon crater, where the peak sits at about 6,000 feet and the valley floor is at about 1,100 feet. That little bowl fills up with clouds every day with its proximity to the ocean and that moisture. So around like noon, 1 o'clock, when the sun gets high enough, that the cloud cover will bake off. So they end up having very similar sunlight hours to Burgundy. And temperature-wise, they sit in between Macon and Dijon. That's just kind of a quick flyby. In that 250-mile radius, it's the only place on the planet where you can find every soil type known to Earth.
That is
Wow, that's
remarkable.
fascinating.
Yeah.
That is absolutely remarkable. What is in our glass? We have the 2019. How do you pronounce this? The Spoin Cup?
Spion Cup. Yeah.
Spion
It
Cup.
translates to Spy Mountain.
It's 100% Chenin Blanc.
100% Chenin Blanc. Yep. From the Elgin area, that last area that I was highlighting. So this is more of a Burgundy climate.
Yeah.
The wonderful thing with Chenin Blanc is it's a pretty hardy varietal. You can grow it in cold climate, cool climate, warm climate. You can work with it in the vineyard. You can work with it in the winery. So you can produce quite a wide range of styles of Chenin Blanc. The goal here at Spion Cup is to let the vineyard and the varietal speak for its site, like for where it is. So there's very minimal manipulation. One of the manipulations is it does see some barrel for about 8 to 10 months on average, usually.
Neutral or
he'll have a small portion of new oak every once in a while, but I'm going to say less than 10%.
Yeah.
And the rest of it is second, third fill barrels. So not to like over influence but to kind of add a little background. It's all French oak. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you have a tasting going on Tuesday, the 21st, at Bottle Joy.
Yes.
It starts at 6 o'clock. It's a small buy-in, but I think they waive the tasting fee if you pick up some bottles, which you will want to. Is this one of them that you're pouring?
Yes. Yeah. We're actually pouring everything here today.
Really?
So
So Shelley,
6 bottles, 6 different things.
yeah.
so Shelley doesn't know this, but I had asked Jesse, well, I kind of think I said it wouldn't break my heart if the Sauvignon Blanc showed up today too. It seems that would be maybe the next one to go before we hit that really, really interesting one.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Which
The
one?
Sauvignon Blanc?
Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah, we can definitely jump into that. Yep.
So this, and I don't have my notes, so I can't read them.
Dump bucket.
Dump bucket Phil.
I was trying to have that.
Oh.
So I didn't have that.
Sorry.
Yeah, I guess if I can highlight one quick thing on Spion Cup,
That's
he's a
inaugural.
super tiny producer. He's a one-man, Kuhn Ross. He's a one-man band. He does about 5,000 cases collectively.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit, though.
He's an artist to say
Yeah.
the least. Everything's organically farmed, natural ferment, no acidification. This is letting the varietal speak for itself. Last 2 years running now. Last 3 years has made it into the top 10 Chenins in the country.
Really?
So, nice feather in the cap for him.
Yeah, it's not sweet. It's a dry Chenin. Smells good.
So this one, I might say, is a 2023 Andrea Sauvignon Blanc. Yes. Yeah, I said it right. I'm gonna say something about this because when we were tasting through these, and I really want to thank Kurt for inviting me. This is what I did. You poured this, Jesse, And I did this. And I looked at Kurt, and that's all. I mean, I just looked at him like, and he finally got it in his glass, and he smelled it, and he looked right at me. I'm like, if you're not bringing this wine into your store, then we need to have some words. This thing is unbelievable. The nose on this kicks ass.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I want to say you replaced something down there, but we recently had that winery on, and so I don't really want to say. Look, different profiles, different wines, all of that. Okay,
Yeah.
But this is right in my wheelhouse. The nose on this is just so floral.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, this is one of our
Cheers.
creations. We have a cheers.
Cheers.
Hashtag cheers.
This is one of our creations. So we've watched South African Sauvignon Blanc for us go from last place as a varietal in 2018 to first place in 2021 by a 11.5% margin.
Wow.
And there's been quite a bit of turmoil in the industry since 2020. And we had launched some brands and pricing changed, and it moved it out of it's by the glass category or what have you. And we decided we've been wanting to do this project for a while. We asked a good friend, winemaker of ours, to head the project up. We tasted through a bunch of different parcels, put a blend together, and we're very happy with the outcome. So this is in that Robertson area, this like Napa-like climate. There's a couple different harvests on this fruit. So 100% Sauvignon Blanc. There's some early harvest, which we look for real green, tight, acidic.
You can taste the late harvest.
It's almost
smell it.
Early harvest. Yeah. So it's like almost,
But you can taste them. I mean, smell some late harvest. Too.
Yeah. So the early harvest, maybe 20-30% at most, can almost have like some Sancerre characters to it. It's very tight acidity. It's very straight laced. And then the rest of it on the regular side, or maybe late, this area is from Robertson. So it's a much warmer climate. So in warmer climate, you're gonna get a little bit more of that tropical character. So you kind of get a little bit of that steely straightforwardness on the palate, and then you get the aromatics are wild. There's a little bit of skin contact, so that might be where you're getting the late thing.
It's not like in New Zealand at
Yeah.
all. It
What
can be a little too tart sometimes.
It can definitely get over tartness. So I was going to say, you will not see any prices on these because it really depends on who's selling it, what their margins are. I will tell you, these are very reasonable prices. And you'll just have to find out what they are when you go down to Bottle Joy and do this tasting. But they are all like unbelievable prices. Like we're not talking $70-$80 for these bottles. Okay, they're going to be somewhere in the vicinity of $20-$30, give or take. And again, I can't put the prices down because we only have wholesale prices, and we're not going to give those out because it's up to the retailer. But this was then my favorite. It's hard to say a white wine is a favorite, but this one just is a perfect wine for any summertime on the deck, in the wintertime, looking at the crappy snow falling. You can have it then and say, I'm dreaming of better warm days, and this is bringing me there.
Some people like snow.
Yeah.
It's not me, but some people do.
We're going to take one quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to start on this really interesting one, that Chard Pinot Noir.
Yeah,
I can't wait. So we'll be right back. Okay. Hello, and welcome back
Yep, sorry.
to Wine Time Fridays, episode 187, November 17th, Friday, all this stuff. Yes, I do. This is super interesting. I believe Jesse said you can kind of This is kind of like a sparkler in a sense, but it's still. This is a 2022 Sienna Chardonnay Pinot Noir that I think you can liken this to like a rosé.
Yeah, this is we carry a handful of rosés, and as you would imagine, they fall off drastically when fall hits, sales wise.
They should.
This is the only one for us that just is steady through the cold months. And I think has a lot to do with what's inside the bottle.
So 70-30, is that right?
70% Chardonnay, 30% Pinot.
This would be good with turkey.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right. Thanksgiving is next Thursday. This would be very, very good with turkey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well played.
Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to bring this wine, because it's a crowd pleaser for sure. So it's a geeky wine, but it's also a wine that I think pretty much anybody can drink. My mom usually needs about 20 to 30 grams residual sugar in her wine, but she enjoys this, and this sits at around 3 grams residual sugar. It's like 3.225 if I'm.
So what are we looking at, like percentage wise? Is that about under a percent?
0.3.
Yeah, because it doesn't taste. It tastes pretty dry.
Yeah, it's like slightly above dry technically, but it's not a sweet wine by any means.
When you said your mom needs 20 to 30, I thought cases.
To get comfortable at Thanksgiving.
She normally likes it pretty sweet. So this is definitely a drier style. So let me tell you what it is, and then if you want, I can tell you how it happened. But the Chardonnay component, the 70% Chardonnay, is early harvest Chardonnay that's pulled in for Champenois method fruit. And that comes in on average 3 to 4 weeks earlier than regular Chardonnay harvest. So it's very small berries, very green, very acidic. We ferment that dry. We push it to the side. And then the Pinot component's on the opposite end of that spectrum. So it's a little bit late hanging. And then we stop the fermentation to preserve a little bit of sugar, because we need that to backfill the Chardonnay. When you taste both the components separately, I probably shouldn't say this, but they're borderline disgusting on their own.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, the process is different.
Yeah, it's a recipe.
Yeah, the process is different.
When we blend them,
you're pulling them early.
Yeah,
you wouldn't pull them early for making Chardonnay.
Mm-hmm.
So I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
but it's not apples to oranges.
Yeah.
Apples to apples. It's apples to oranges. In this case, it's early picking at the right bricks.
Yeah, the Chardonnay is like early and the Pinot's late. So if you don't like sweet Pinot, you're not going to like that. And if it tastes the early harvest when it's fermented still and dry.
You're going late on the Pinot. It's almost raisins, right?
Yeah,
and it's getting
yeah. So it's really interesting what happens when you do the blend. The blend changes from year to year. We've had it some years be 10% Pinot. We mainly go for the optimal juice, whatever that vintage wants to give us. Then we play with the blend, and we'll do all different sorts of things, and then that's it. And then it goes into the bottle. So yeah, we've had some years where it's almost transparent. You can even tell that it's a rosé. Wow. This year has been a little bit darker, but this was the best rendition that we could find. So,
what month do you harvest?
Harvest in South Africa in the Southern Hemisphere starts in January. So the first thing that's going to get pulled is the method Champenois fruit, right? And that can happen like second week of January usually.
I just think that's so interesting because we're Southern Hemisphere is, well, first of all, when you flush the toilet, it's going to go the opposite way. But you're harvesting when typically they would start maybe July, August.
They just
you're going January.
Harvesting, I think, Rousson and Paso Robles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Paso Robles.
They're right now they're slammed down there because of all the fruit that's coming in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're in November.
Mid-November, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So this started by a total mistake. Kind of similar to how champagne started by a total mistake, right? This was intended to be like a $50 bottle of Champenois method rosé bubbles, got stuck and didn't go through the secondary fermentation. So we put it in a cheap bottle and sold it, and it all of a sudden, like, we
flew off.
We had like distributors upset at us that we ran out.
You thought we may have something here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's almost impossible. Well, it's not impossible. It's too expensive to duplicate that process. It'd be silly. You wouldn't be able to sell it at the price that it's sold for now.
Right.
So we really had to like go back to the drawing board and figure out a way to do it. And we weren't very confident that we would be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to a couple, talented winemaker friends, we were able to sort it out and figure it out. So
how many years has this been going?
This is for I'm gonna guess like between 7 and 8 years. Yeah, somewhere around there.
So you go down there and help them with the recipe at times, or taste through things?
Well, yeah. So like there's a couple of our like creations where we will buy fruit from a winery or like sign a contract with a grower to buy their fruit. And then we will always, like, we usually employ like a winemaker friend or a specific winemaker to a specific project. So that way we have total control of the branding, the pricing, what goes in the bottle, everything. And we're not beholden to like, a particular winery selling the bulk of their productions to Europe, and then we have to change with whatever Europe wants.
Yeah.
So yeah. For the vast majority, we represent growers, and then when we do our own projects, we buy the fruit from growers and have a very dialed in winemaker oversee the project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, wine number 4 is, and then you're gonna have to pronounce this. It's 2022. Is it Gris Sablon Morgan?
Gris Sablon. So we're jumping off the South African train for a minute and
for a moment. Well,
let's make a little pit stop in Beaujolais.
That's a great segue because we are jumping off of U.S. wines for 2 weeks doing these with and then next week we're going to be in France and Italy.
Oh,
so
perfect.
Yeah, so we're off the U.S. train for a couple of weeks. So it makes sense that we're going to bop out of South Africa and go over to Beaujolais for a little Gamay. Yes.
Yeah. Perfect.
Oops, sorry, Shelley.
Glad you're driving alone.
No, you're not. You're gonna have to follow me home because you're not gonna drive at night.
Oh, it's gonna be dark.
Yep.
Slide that over there.
Gris Sablon Morgan.
Margon, yes.
Margon. Thank you.
Yes. So, personally, have been Beaujolais fan for quite some time. And on the import side, we were gearing up to what we called re-diversify back into the old world. Myself and my business partner, Brian Norman, been in the wine industry for 20 years as well. His family owns a amazing distributorship in Iowa and South Dakota called Okoboji, and they have a great book, great people. And so he had the opportunity of, being involved with some of the best books in the world with that company. And him and I are 100% aligned on Beaujolais is like one of our favorite things to drink. And for many years, it was like, I think the most underrated thing in the US. I don't know if it existed like that in Europe and the UK.
Maybe they were just drinking Beaujolais Nouveau.
Maybe.
Well,
they didn't know.
Yesterday, November 16th, was Beaujolais Nouveau Day. But that doesn't mean that you have to put the Kool-Aid in your glass. You could actually go a decent Beaujolais.
Yeah.
So
this is Cru Beaujolais. Like I was saying, we set out to kind of re-diversify in 2019, and then 2020 happened, so it kind of pumped the brakes on a lot of different things. So this is just a brand new import for us. We just brought this in. We were very surprised to understand that Gris Sablon was available. They've been in the U.S. for quite some time, and in Beaujolais, quite a old school, recognizable Cru Beaujolais producer. And the prices are just like, we were mind boggled. We thought it was we sat down with this property. We thought, it's one of those things where on our side of the aisle, you might get quoted prices and then you get back home and have a couple calls and then the prices kind of inch their way up a little bit.
Right. Oh, well, that was, that's, we quoted you this
That
is what
was
you ended.
special.
Yeah.
Ended last night.
It ended last night. Oh, you were almost there.
Yeah. So everything has been great. We're still experiencing like major shipping delays logistically, which is frustrating, but we're getting through it.
Yeah.
So this we were hoping would arrive like in the summertime, and it literally just arrived like, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah. So you this is just ever so slightly chilled. I kind of like it. It's like a
It's like
Lambrusco.
cellar temperature kind of.
Yeah, it is like cellar temperature. It's like the perfect temp. I think people probably drink their reds too warm and their whites too cold. We have been kind of a believer of the 20-20 rule. If you're going to open a white, take it out of the fridge 20 minutes before you open it. If you're going to open a red, if it's in room temperature when you're 72 degrees, put it in the fridge for 20 minutes just to get it to that right, temp. But this is perfect. This is so good.
I agree with you 100%. I think, there's some very notable restaurants around the country that serve their reds too warm, and
there's one here in Coeur d'Alene. We won't mention the name.
I also understand.
Sorted by the heater.
By the furnace. What are you thinking?
Yeah. I get it though too. Like restaurants, you got a limited amount of space, and you got things going 100 miles an hour in every direction. So a lot of places do the best they can, but especially with the wines that we represent, they're again being organically farmed, natural ferment. We're going to have a higher level of natural acidity, which feels good on your palate. Should feel fresh. When you get into like things that are overly acidified, for me, I can't have like more than a half a glass of those things. They taste good right away, but then all of a sudden you start almost getting clogged up.
Shelley's kind of in the same boat these days on the really acid. Yeah, the acidic wines.
Yeah, so with red wine, and especially like the red wines that we have open here, they have a naturally high acid level, and a little bit of like slight chill, like that 20 minutes in the refrigerator that you're talking about. I think benefits the wine. It adds to the freshness. It doesn't take away from the fruit. Doesn't take away from the structure.
It's very fruity.
Yeah.
Again, this would be good with turkey.
Oh,
yes.
This. You know what? Seriously, if you haven't got your wines picked out for Thanksgiving, go to Bottle Joy, and at least half of these, if not all of them, would be perfect on that day. We're kind of big fans of having a couple, 3 wines during the course of the day on Thanksgiving, and we generally land on a Pinot for salmon, but this would knock a Pinot out of the way for sure. This is for the turkey. Yeah. This is so good. Yep. So good. We're going to take one more break because we need to stay on schedule, Shelley. We have places to go, people to see, things like that. When we come back, we're going to go with our last 2 bottles. Hello and welcome back to Wine Time Fridays with Shelley and Phil and Jesse Balsimo with Truvino. By the way, they have on their, I saw this on your website, you believe in true productions made by hands. Is that part of where your name came from, the true and then the vino? Because I really like this. I put this in because it said you believe in true productions made by hands, plural. I thought that was, I don't know, I'm probably stupid.
Yeah.
Then he says, yeah.
Yeah. That's more like
it's
it's okay.
Yeah. When I got out of that first partnership and decided to go out on my own, I had been thinking about the name for a while and what was meaningful to me in the industry. And there's all different. I spent 3 years selling to the big corporate companies and wearing a suit and tie, and I did not like that.
It's okay from time to time, but when you do it
Yeah.
every day,
Yeah. And it's buying wine like on a spreadsheet rather than buying what's in the bottle.
Right.
And so I just naturally gravitated towards the growers again. And well, I don't know how to say this without kind of pissing anybody off, but I started to find that the smaller,
we have thousands and thousands of listeners.
the smaller growers and the smaller producers, they all had an aligning drive or just statement, for a lack of a better term. And the one thing I kept hearing from anybody, whether they were in South Africa, France, Italy, Oregon, New York, wherever it was, the best wines to me that I was tasting at that time were the alignment of what I've heard was they put their blood, sweat, and tears into the farming. There's a lot of work, a lot of hard work that was done in the farm, in the vineyard, to let their property or their block of vines literally survive on their own, and not go the route of spraying and chemicals and pesticides and all this. And just doing a simple experiment of walking in an organic vineyard, you can actually grab the dirt with your hands and smell it. And you might see some bugs in there, but it smells like dirt. And then you go to
It's a great smell, by the way.
It is a great
It's
smell.
a great smell.
And then you go to a conventional farm, and like you can't even kick the dirt loose. It's as hard as concrete.
Right.
And then being in a conventional farm during a rain, you watch the rain hit the ground and it runs right off and goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
It's really interesting. So we just last week finished our 5-week series on Paso Robles wine. And we found out kind of early on, you've got in Paso, you've got east side and the west side.
Mhm.
The east side generally is considered more industrial winemaking, and the west side is more artistic winemaking. And I think
And a lot of dry farming. So I would assume
Yeah.
there's a lot of dry farming in these.
Yeah, so you just kind of hit that, and it doesn't make the bigger farms and wineries and their production. It doesn't make that bad wine by any stretch. It's just a different wine. You're gonna really taste how hands-on this wine is compared. Like this is a Pinotage that we just poured, right?
yes,
This is a 2020 Orenzig single vineyard Pinotage. Did I say that one right?
pretty close. Sig.
Oh my God,
And
I
if
was
you wanna
not
get-
close at all.
If you want to get it right, the G in Afrikaans is the guttural G, so it's you gotta like
Oh, nice.
spit up.
Don't
stuff.
say that with a cold. You're gonna get more than you bargain with. Anyway, just to put a bow on that comment, it's really fun. Again, going back to price point on these are priced where you might find some higher end, big production wines, but they are actually crafted wines. They're low production wines, and they're keeping the costs very reasonable.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Talk to us about Pinotage, because Pinotage, we haven't really talked a lot about Pinotage.
We haven't.
Yeah, so it's
We just know there's a day.
So do you not want me to say what the average retail is? So we keep
oh
that off
sure,
here?
no,
We can
you
do that?
absolutely can. Yeah,
Because I'm comfortable doing that. Like we
Perfect,
gotta
yeah.
like everybody has.
I just wanted to honor
I-
and respect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but no, totally.
it's coming out of your mouth. Absolutely.
Sure. So just to go back quickly, the Spion Cup Chenin Blanc. This is the highest price point of the table. It's the smallest production. This is about a $60 retail. Then the Sauvignon Blanc is $15. The Rosé is also $15. Gris Sablon would be about $19.99, between $19.99 and $22, given the state.
Yeah.
So here in Idaho, it's going to be $19.99.
Yeah.
And then the Sig is going to be in that like upper 20s, like let's call it 27.
It's a really good price.
I mean, it's off the chart. I just, yeah. I mean, the Sauvignon Blanc is $15. Come on.
Yeah.
Skip the Kim Crawford. Go with this, like every day and twice on Sunday.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Pinotage is a South African varietal. It was created by a mad scientist, Abraham Isaac Perold, in 1925,
Wow.
who grafted a Pinot Noir vine to a Cinsault vine. So
Oh.
maybe not everybody's heard of Cinsault, but it's
In 1925.
1925 is when that's when the grape was first created or classified, I guess.
To do that in 1925, I mean, I might be completely wrong, but it seems like that's kind of a newer thing to start grafting things. Was
I
that
don't
something?
think so.
No, has that been done for centuries, maybe?
Because you had to have those different roots that would survive.
Ah,
So you
yeah, I
wrap
guess.
it on top of
Yeah.
stronger roots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do that a lot here in Idaho.
Maybe the most recognizable of example would be Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah.
So Cabernet Sauvignon was birthed the same way by crossing Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc.
I it's just like,
It's the whole reason why they started calling Cabernet Franc, because in French, Franc means like legit or real.
really,
So when this
gosh, if we
new-
could just have a Cabernet Franc today, I would be so happy.
Yeah, so we will. Yeah, getting back to Pinotage. So if you haven't had Cinsault, it's also a very light varietal, like Pinot Noir, being from the Rhone. However, it carries a lot more spicy character to it. If you get a chance to taste it on its own, unmanipulated, it's very jumpy in my like description.
Would you
It's-
call that more of a blending varietal?
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
that's why it
Yeah.
99% of the time is a blending varietal.
Sure.
It's very rare to find 100%
100%.
Cinsault.
Yeah.
I mean, they're out there.
It's
There's
kind of
some-
like, it's kind of rare to find 100% Petit Verdot.
yeah,
You just don't see it very
Yeah.
often. Yeah.
yeah. It's very transparent. I mean, you can see right through it. It's very spicy, and it's again the acidity. I describe it as jumping. It's kind of like has these big wavelengths to it. It's interesting to do, and maybe we could do this at some other point.
Yeah.
Is do Pinot Noir, Pinotage, Cinsault tasting because
Yeah.
they're all three completely different from one another.
Yeah.
So whatever happened with Pinotage here, it's its own varietal. It carries more weight generally than Pinot Noir and Cinsault, I would say. You can see where there's a little bit of traces from the two parent varietals, but it is definitely its own varietal.
But spice like a Malbec kind of spice.
Yeah.
That's what
Yes,
I'm getting.
you're relatively going to get lower tannins like you would in Malbec compared to the other Bordeaux varietals.
Mhm.
The varietal has been around for a very short period of time, all things considered. And they used to make it way back in the day, very light and transparent like Pinot Noir. Somewhere around the 80s and to about 10 years ago, there was a major push to make it into like a Bordeaux style wine. Not saying that everybody was doing it, but there was a handful of producers, more international producers at that time that were adding Brett to it and other things to kind of lift the shoulders up. And in my opinion, in most of those cases, the wine would fall apart. It does not, it's Pinot Noir, it's its mother, and it does not want to be messed with. So this particular production is like a great example of that, where this is like completely left alone. So it's all organic fruit, harvested. They throw it into a vat, and winemaker says he walks away. He's the laziest winemaker on the planet. They don't punch down, they don't pump over, they just let it
They
sit.
Wow.
They just let it
They have a
sit.
term for that, the weight of the fruit that actually crushes it, right?
Oh yeah, there is.
I
I'm gonna
can't
draw a
think.
blank on that too.
Yeah, I forgot the name, but I mean, you do these things like punching down just to get that, everything churned and mixed up so it doesn't just sit. But talk about not getting in the way of winemaking. You put it in there and walk away.
Yeah.
I mean, you were talking about this when you go to these farms and you pick up a clump of dirt because the soil's that rich. There's nothing like it, right, Shelley? I mean, the smell of dirt, the smell of soil, and getting your hands dirty.
That's why I used to like to sit in the potato cellar.
I mean,
The dirt was so nice.
And so you're talking about some very let the science do its stuff. Don't get in the way.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what Lawrence will tell you. He puts all of his efforts into the farm. He's a 6th generation farmer, and his father, grandfather, great grandfather farmed fruit and sold it to the co-op. He was the first one in the family lineage to go to school to be a winemaker. So he had all these like glorious vineyards to work with, where they were just getting pennies profit on the fruit, just selling it off. He had a blank slate. He says, I had a blank slate. I don't have to make wine the way my dad did or my grandfather did. He's like, I could do whatever I wanted. So he set out to do single vineyard productions. And by law in South Africa, if you put single vineyard on the label, which you can see on the side there, you cannot exceed 6 hectares, which is roughly 15 acres. Has to be 100% varietal planted in that block, and then also 100% varietal in the bottle. So it leaves no room for foolery. He publishes the amount of bottles each vintage that they get out of the block.
I love that,
right
by the way.
label.
I really do. There's just some. I know it's it's more money, but it's just so fun. I'm drinking bottle number Mm-hmm. We haven't talked about alcohol content at all. Shelley, what do you think the alcohol is on this? Think about it.
12.9.
Okay, it's 13. I mean, another bonus is that these are not hot. Well, I don't know about the rest. This Pinotage is 13%. That's a really good one. 13.5 for that one before, and I know the Beaujolais. Yeah, I know these other ones are probably going to be somewhere around 12.5, 13.
12.5. Yeah, and that's amazing that you said 12.8.
I know. I was thinking she was going to say 14.5.
12.8.
It is.
So yeah, in South Africa, the way the government monitors will always round up or down to the 0.5 or to the 0.0.
Got it.
If you go exact alcohol, and let's say you're doing, every time you export, you have to send a bottle into SAWIS or the government, and they will do an analysis on it to make sure it's the same. So if you do an exact alcohol of, say, 12.83, every time you send in a sample, it has to be right at 12.83, and it might fluctuate 1/100th of a degree, sometimes 1/10 of a degree, just depending. So it really, if the only reason you would do that was to be super nerdy, but then you're beholden to doing the whole thing all at once, and that's usually
but not the same every year though, right?
No, every year is different. Yeah, every year is different, but
this, I mean, my guess is you can lay these down for 3 to 5 years easy. That's going to change the alcohol when you open the bottle too. So I think it tends to fall off a little bit. Is that right? You lose a little bit.
You're going to lose volume, so your alcohol is going to go up.
Oh, go up. Okay,
yeah.
Interesting. Okay, got it.
With everything that we've tasted today, they're all open tank fermentations. They're exposed to oxygen the whole time.
Bugs and everything.
They'll age for a very long time. Like that Pinotage will go 20 years if it's stored correctly. Has a very low pH, like 3.4, a very high natural acidity. So right there, it's going to be very stubborn to oxygen. It has a high free sulfur and a very low total sulfur. So you've got right there, you've got kind of the 3 components of aging, and then just by, I guess, experience of tasting these things, they're very slow to age.
Do you find that your knowledge, because you have really, I would think, a lot above average knowledge, that it's helping you in this endeavor, what you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like
I don't think that there's a lot of distributor reps that can talk like this.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I don't take compliments very well. I think, but I don't know. I've always been intrigued.
Yeah.
Because I didn't grow up in wine at all. When this wine thing happened for me, it was by accident right out of college, and I started going to tastings and reading books, and I'm like, I gotta know what I'm talking about. And it started out as a 3-month experiment internship.
Yeah.
That's
still going.
It's still going. Yeah. So it's amazing because when I was the first 10 years, I was selling wines from everywhere, Greece, from all around the world. And I knew a lot more then than I know now. I know a lot about a few things now. That might be it, So the wine world is so vast. I think it's impossible really to kind of keep it all together at once.
If you were to taste all the available wine this year, but you wouldn't want to do, you would be dead. But if you did, it starts all over again next year.
Yes.
That's the beautiful thing about this. I'm going to take one.
Usually ask this question, but he hasn't for a while. So what was your gateway wine that you decided, wine is great?
It was my birth year. So 1981 Overgau. And I want to say it was a Cabernet, which they don't produce a single Cabernet anymore, but it's a South African wine. And that was my first trip into wine country. And winemaker was amazing. It was kind of a weird deal where we had to meet the winemaker, and it's probably because we were brand new and didn't even have a website at the time. We had to meet him at a restaurant, and then we tasted wine with him for a little bit. And he's like, "All right, let's go back to the winery." And it was like right around the corner. And we tasted their wines. Some other folks were there as well, and then they took us into the cellar, and they had all these. They still to this day have vintages going back to the 70s, and lots of bottles. Like they will sell like 10 cases of a particular vintage, and then kind of rotate the vintages each year. Amazing old school family producer, and he asked me what my birth year was, and I was like 81. He's like, "All right, well," he's like, he gave me the 81. He's like, "You take that home with you." And then he's like, 82 is a better vintage, so we'll drink that now. I'm like,
wow.
So the 82 was phenomenal. But then,
have you opened the 81?
Oh no, he told me to open it on my birthday, and
Okay.
I want to say it was like a couple months after that.
So how long ago was this?
This is 2003,
Okay.
2004, somewhere around there.
Years ago.
Yeah. And so my parents and my business partner at the time and his wife and myself were having dinner, and I pulled the cork on this bottle, and it smelled like rotten mushrooms. It was just like, it was kind of awful. And I was like, you know what? Like the experience, and like, this is still cool. Like, I don't care. And
you poured it.
And no, I just let it sit on the counter, and we went on to other wines. And then it might've been like 45 minutes later, the whole kitchen like smelled like wild strawberries. Like it was just crazy, the aromatics. And
out of the bottle, you didn't even put it in a craft.
Didn't even put it in a decanter. Yeah.
Wow.
And I went back over there and tried it, and we each got a glass. There was 5 of us, and like that much. It might have been like the optimal time to taste that bottle.
Yeah.
Because it was very aromatic, and by the time we were getting down to the last sip, it started all blowing off. Like it went that quick. Yeah. And the winemaker said, he's like, "This was not the greatest vintage for us, blah, 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 whatever." But that was like an eye opener.
That was a 20-ish year old wine at that time.
Yeah. 22, 23. Yeah.
Somewhere around there. Yeah. And so you probably did open that at the right time. Yeah. And that's just so cool.
Yeah. It was amazing. Like my dad, who's still a beer drinker, he was like, his comedy goes, "Oh, I understand why people spend money for wine now."
Well, yeah. What we like to do on this podcast is find value wine, and that's what we're doing today. Is finding value priced wine, and the quality is off the chart. While Shelley manages we have our Wine Time Friday Spit Bucket. First time, it's the inaugural today. We're going to take one last break. When we come back, we're going to get into this last wine that we're going to taste, which happens to be a Cabernet Franc. And
sorry.
So sorry. And we'll be right back. Welcome back to Wine Time Fridays with Shelley, Phil, and Jesse with Truvino. And by the way, on your website, I haven't gotten to any of the questions that I wanted to ask, which is fine. It means that we're having a really good conversation. But can you tell me about your operations manager, Kristen Liu? Because she looks super lazy on your website. I mean, does she do any work, or does she just hang out in the hammock drinking wine?
No, she's like the woman behind the curtain. She's like pulling all the strings and making sure we all stay together.
So she does her job.
Yeah, when we did those mug shots, mine is the like overlooking the Solaris Pass, and at that time I think it was like when selfies were coming about, and I just was not getting it. I'm like, why would you want to like, snap all these pictures of your face and like just post them everywhere, and like I don't know. I struggled with it. So I was like, well, let's find something else. Or the other thing was like the bank photo where you're like in a suit and tie. And, so it's like, these are the two options. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do either of them. And she's like, I don't want to do this either. So she took like some vacation picture and put it up there. I'm like, that's fine. As long as people can see that we're actual people, that's fine.
Again, people like buying from people.
Yeah.
Not buying from brands. And so if you can show the human aspect, that's the best. This is a great time for me to mention we started another page on our website. It is a whole page dedicated to our series, because we have a lot of different series. And one of them is Women in Wine, which next week we're going to have someone who's a woman in wine. And I pulled up a Jody Elsom, because we did Jody Elsom. She's got Elsom Cellars. Mm-hmm. We love Jody. And I found a great picture of her on our website, of her holding a couple bottles of her wine. And that's what I used, because that's a fun picture of a human behind it. So anyway.
Yeah, no, it's just Kristen is like, she does everything but sell wine, right? So all the compliance, logistics, emotional support, you name it.
I might have to disagree with you about her doing everything except for sell wine. If she didn't do what she's doing, would you be selling wine?
No, we wouldn't be able to. No. So yeah,
what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, it's a team effort for sure. Yeah, and yeah, she's like a sister, family, you name it. Yeah.
Well, so while Jesse is pouring this last wine, I'm going to tell you a week from today is Carmenere Day. Then we have on December 4th, Shelley, Cabernet Franc Day.
Fancy that. And then we have National Prohibition Repeal Day on the 5th, which we're really going to get into. I pulled up some things about that. And then World Asu Day on the 10th, and Pinot, can you say it? Pinot Meunier.
Thank you. Okay. On the 16th. And so I thought that was a good segue to this Cab Franc. Anyway, yeah. Oh.
You didn't get to taste this last week at the Bottle Joy.
I may have.
I had the Cab Sauv.
Is that
Franc.
what it was? Okay.
Yeah, I just made a little switch because of the Cabernet Franc Day.
Yes, a good switch to make.
Yeah.
As our listeners know, Carmenere and Cab Franc are my two very favorite varietals.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Love them. And not to downgrade other wines.
Yeah, so this is Waterkloof Estate. Circumstance is, I guess, for a lack of a better term, the range of wines. I'm not going to get into the whole story, but these guys are awesome to work with. Really, really love like everything they do, top to bottom, is very well thought through. It's an amazing property. It's an amazing story. Paul Boutinot is the one that I guess started the property, or it might have actually been started before he bought the property, but he's the one that really transformed it into what it is today. Paul, sorry, Paul, but I'm going to guess he's 65. He started an import company in the UK right out of school, and mainly, so the story goes, or so I remember it, is his father, who had a small little local restaurant in their village or town, sent him to France to buy some wine because they couldn't find very good wines at that time, and and then some neighboring restaurants were like, hey, Paul, next time you go down, bring us some stuff back. And that started an import company kind of organically. Fast forward years later, they were a very large import company to the UK. And then Paul ended up making wine in Rhone, South Africa, South America. I want to say the Loire as well. And he sold the company about 5-6 years ago. And the only thing that he carved out of the deal was to keep Waterkloof. So of all the other things that they had going on, he wanted to keep that for himself. So it's him and his son Louis that have been running it since, and well, the whole time. But they're looking to the future and down the path, so to speak, is a very long distance, and it's a pleasure to work with this place because they take things very seriously. There's a lot of vineyards, wineries that I've been to that are organic, and some may or may not have like an oops shed. And these guys are
some
legit,
may or
like,
may not.
Yeah. They go to every extent to make their own organic material from the property or from the estate. So they make their own silicas from an indigenous plant that grows on the property. They've got a team of 130 some goats that have a specific job. If you go onto their website, you'll see the big Budweiser horses, the Clydesdales, that they use for tilling. So everything is done by hand.
Yeah. That's
like to the next level. They went to the extreme of fabricating their own water recycling unit. So they don't even let the wastewater from the restaurant or the winery go into the sewer. They recycle it. They put it back into the dam, and the dam is just lush, full of green. It's very healthy. And during drought years, which happens in Stellenbosch, they've donated it to the townships below them, which is pretty cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just completely engaged by the depth of just
dedication
and commitment. Yeah.
Yeah.
This seriously, it's 2018.
Yeah.
It's 5 years old. It could be laid down another easy 5 years. This is still got some easy. I said easy 5 years. Yeah.
And
The tannins on this are still very pronounced.
Yeah. I mean, that, wine has really shifted towards drink now, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think South Africa is very slow to move, and you can still spend $25-$30 and get something that'll age for 20-30 years.
For those of you who have the patience.
Yeah. You just have to make sure your everyday stock is overflowing, because otherwise you dip into the stuff that you're trying to save.
Yep, that's very true.
Yeah.
Very, very true.
Female winemaker.
Nice.
Nadia Barnard is her maiden name. Sorry, Nadia. I draw a blank on. Shoot, sorry.
That's okay.
But badass. She's a awesome winemaker. She worked as a winemaker in France for a number of years. Everything at this property is dryland farms. So they're one of a couple of dryland farms in Stellenbosch, where it's nearly impossible to dryland farm. You have to irrigate a little bit, but they dedicate their ability to dryland farm from their organic material in the dirt, etc. And after that, everything is still foot trodden. So they stomp it with their feet. Nadia will explain that she feels they get a more gentle extraction. And when you're dealing with Bordeaux varietals, you can get some pretty powerful stuff out of extraction.
Yeah.
So they foot trodden, no acidification, natural fermentation. Then on the red side anything that you would find under this label, the circumstance, is going to be roughly 2 years in French oak. And then they'll let it sit in the bottle for a period of time before they release it. Hence, this is current vintage, 2018.
Really?
Yeah.
Shelley and I looked at each other when you said foot trodden. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Monk reference
Mm-hmm.
from one of the episodes in Monk. It's
It's a fancy way to say it's stomped by feet.
That's right. Yeah. And you hope they don't have any athlete's feet going into that. But this is fantastic.
It's going to make everyone want to go out and buy all of these.
I'm serious. I am not even joking about this. I don't know how many Kurt brought in. I know he brought in at least 3 of these, if not more. But and if he didn't bring that Sauvignon Blanc in, I'm not sure Kurt and I can be friends anymore, but we'll still accept their partnership through sponsorship because that's how we roll. Keep in mind, most of these offerings exceed the certified sustainable certification and are organic, biodynamically farmed and naturally produced. And I had here, please elaborate, which you already did.
So these wines are also good for people who get headaches from wines, right?
Yes. Yeah. Our like cheeky slogan is they're anti-hangover wines. Yeah.
I don't think it's cheeky at all. I mean, look, if you drink an entire bottle by yourself, you're probably going to get a hangover.
Yeah.
Okay. But some people can't even have a glass of red wine because they get a headache.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And actually in our house, we have, I don't know how, learned to identify on that first sip.
Headache wine.
She will say headache wine. I just want to have a glass of this.
Yeah.
Just because you just have that feeling. So the fact that these are cheeky, no hangover, what?
Cheeky, no hangover wines.
Yeah.
No cheeky hangovers.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to touch on that quick, like it's something that is, I think it's very bastardized. Like just the explanation of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, please do.
I think sulfur, wrongfully so gets blamed for all of it, which there might be little 10% of truth there, or more or less. If you start off with organic fruit, and I've heard a lot of people that say I get headaches, I can only drink Italian or French wines. I've heard that for 20 years.
Yep.
And I think they're feeling like a real thing. It wasn't too long ago where pesticides didn't exist. So you had to make wines in an old school fashion. You had to harvest early. So you had very high acidity levels. So the thing wouldn't ferment fast. Because if you ferment fast, you get a very hot alcoholic fermentation. It's very difficult to ferment late hanging fruit. So if you have like, say, a 15% alcohol Cabernet Sauvignon from wherever, that juice would typically ferment so hot and so fast that it would stop itself and it wouldn't fully ferment. So you just have kind of a mess on your hands.
That's not good.
Yeah. So you would have to ferment at lower brix or lower sugar levels. So you have a more gentle, longer lasting fermentation.
Right.
That way, the whole thing, it kind of has the opportunity to go through.
To run its course in the right amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're still doing that, you can naturally ferment. If you're harvesting for crazy aromatics and volume and all of that, then you're gonna have to guide that fermentation process. So, what a handful of places will do is they'll start pulsing sulfur into the fermentation process to slow it down. So you get a little bit more sulfur added through that process, but then you also might need to backfill certain flavor components, and there's certain enzymes and bacteria.
And now you're starting to tinker more and more and more and more. Yeah.
So then you end up in, you would want to get a winemaker in here to really go into depth on this topic. But at the end of the day, what ends up happening is you have like a Frankenstein production, and you've got a lot of sugar, you have a lot of alcohol, you have a lot of sulfur, you have a lot of other stuff. And it's a recipe for not feeling very well.
Yeah. No, that makes actually perfect sense.
It does.
Yeah. I like, thank you for clarifying that. No, seriously. I wanted to say a couple weeks ago, there was a big old to-do down in San Francisco. Yeah, the Kermit Lynch 50th anniversary portfolio tasting, which our friend Trevor was there, our friend Naomi was there, and our new friend Jesse was there.
Yes.
We
were not there.
We were not there, but there's a really cool thing, Jesse. Do you want to explain one of your new portfolios?
Yeah, so we just got
and why it's a big deal.
Yeah, we just got our distribution license a month and a half, 2 months ago for the state of Idaho. And prior to that, we were solely focused on importation, which means we sell to a distributor in each state. But decided to become a distributor in my home state here. And as soon as we got the license, like alcohol license can take a week, they can take a couple of years, depending. So you never hedge your bets. You wait till you get your license, and then once you get your license, then it's real. And we were thinking, like, who would we really like to have, and not paying attention to what we thought we couldn't have.
You don't know what you don't know.
Just make phone calls and
That's
just
right.
say, hey, we're here. And I like the planets aligned, and
we've been looking to get into North Idaho.
and we connected with Kermit Lynch. It's a book that I've held at like the highest regard, and really fashioned our company after what they've done and staying true to representing growers.
Sounds like a great alignment.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And I was blown away to hear that it wasn't available in North Idaho. So I was like, we'll do it. We'll gladly do it. And we had a series of conversations. It took a while. But yeah, we were really excited when we got the call for that. I'm very interested in this. What are some of did you have to jump through a lot of hoops? Are there a lot of, is it kind of a maze of, you have to go through before you actually get that okay that, we're going to go with you guys? Well, I think, so Brian, my business partner, he lives in Oregon, and I mentioned his family's distribution. He worked with their portfolio for close to 20 years.
So you got a relationship.
Yeah. And then, we've had some other friends in the industry here. And for whatever reason, nobody would touch the portfolio in North Idaho. So Idaho is like
I know.
From
it's
a distribution standpoint,
so stupid.
It's two different states, right?
Two different time zones.
You got North Idaho and South Idaho, and you got a big mountain in between.
Yeah.
So if you're going to distribute to the whole state, you have to have a minimum of 2 sales teams, two warehouses, like it's geographically, it's very prohibitive.
Right.
So they're Kermit Lynch's oldest distributor is J.W. Thornton out of Boise.
Is that right?
Yeah. They've been with Kermit Lynch the longest out of any distributor.
Even out of California.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, wild.
Wow.
So yeah, and they also have another distributor down south. So it was available, and we're just like personal fans. So it's like, we have to give this a go, and see what happens. So we got aligned. We picked up a couple other portfolios that we're really excited about that we're going to launch in the new year.
Can you pull back the curtain a little bit on that, or not quite yet?
I think so. We got verbals.
Okay.
So Alan Juganet out of New York, they're the ones that first brought over Clos de Pop. So another French portfolio, and then Brazos, which in my opinion would be like, I'm sure they'd be happy hearing this, but they're like the Kermit Lynch of South America. So they specialize in Argentinian wines, Chilean wines. They have some Uruguay wines, but all similar vein. It's all grower wines, natural ferment, no acidification. Just
sounds like 2024 is going to be a good revenue year for Truvino. Yeah. That's all I'm
Or a
saying.
good wine drinking year.
That's right, because you do have to sample some of these wines.
Yeah, and a couple that I don't want to mention quite yet,
Okay.
but our other focus is we've got a handful of friends in Oregon, and we've been talking to some people that we know aren't represented here, so we're hoping to launch that. So we're looking at like South Africa, South America, France, Oregon, kind of being our
Good for you guys.
those little pillars, I guess.
That's freaking awesome. So excited for you guys.
I'm going to buzz through a couple things, Shelley, unless you want to buzz through them.
Go ahead.
Okay. Some wines we enjoyed this week. Waterbrook Syrah, the Vineyards Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon. That was a Gary Vee wine. Retail value, $150. We bought for $20 because of the Gary Vee Wine Club. Was off the charts good. We had Charles Krug Merlot. And, of course, Ryan Patrick Naked Chardonnay we've gone back to and pretty happy about that. The Social Web Wine Word of the Week, I thought was a perfect word for this week because all of these wines have been elegant. So you ask about elegant. Well, I know what the definition of elegant is, but in the wine world, elegant is a wine that is super balanced, refined, and harmonious to the point where sometimes we have to have a revisit on Cabernet Franc. It has a complex structure and a long finish. The flavors are well-defined, not overpowering. Elegant wines are often described as being seamless or effortless to drink. And these all fall under that umbrella, in my opinion. These are fantastic. What to expect next week? We have Marilee Bromhall with Iola wines. She's Italian and French wines that she's bringing over. That's kind of cool. And then a huge thanks to today's sponsors, Bottle Joy, Eternal Wine, and Naked Wines, and Parallel 47, 47 degrees, 45 feet, 135 degree north. I'm not going to try to read that. They're Parallel 47. By the way, same parallel, I believe, is Burgundy. Is Parallel 47. Am I close?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, 47. So thank you for loaning us your glasses. Go in and visit the folks at Parallel 47 on Government Way and say, I heard about you on Wine Time Fridays. And with a little bit of knowledge, and yeah, we kind of rushed to the end, but with a little bit of knowledge, wine becomes a lot less overwhelming. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Shelley, for being my partner in crime. Thank you for you, the listener and the watcher. And we'll see you next week with Iola Wines.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Ding, 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 ding.
Thank you for spending part of your day to wind down with Shelley and Phil. Remember, you can listen to any episode of the Wine Time Fridays podcast by visiting winetimefridays.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us on our Wine Time Fridays Facebook page, Instagram, or on Twitter, which is @VintageTweets, for daily conversation. Until next week, here's our toast to you, to health, wealth, abundance, gratitude, peace on earth, and of course, romance.